Mia had never imagined that she would meet Clint Eastwood. She was just a young woman working at a small diner in a quiet town, a place where the world seemed unaware of her existence. But one summer morning, when the sunlight filtered through the windows and the air had an almost surreal quality, Mia had an encounter that would change her life forever. It was an ordinary day at the diner. Most of the regular customers were there, enjoying their usual meals. Mia was preparing food for a group of people, the hum of the kitchen blending with the quiet chatter in the background. But then, just as she placed the last plate on a table, the bell above the door jingled, signaling the entrance of a new customer. To Mia's shock, it wasn't just any customer. It was none other than Clint Eastwood, the famous actor and director. First, Mia couldn't believe her eyes. She froze for a moment, unsure whether this was just her imagination or a bizarre twist of fate. Clint Eastwood was standing right there in front of her. She had watched his movies countless times, admired his work, but never in her wildest dreams did she think she'd be serving him lunch at a small-town diner. The diner was quiet enough that she could hear the soft shuffle of his footsteps as he walked to an empty booth near the window. His presence was undeniable. There was something both humbling and grand about it. Mia took a deep breath, trying to compose herself. She had worked in this diner for a long time, but this was different. This was Clint Eastwood. "Hi there," he said, his voice calm and gravelly, with that distinctive tone that had made him a legend. "Can I get a menu?" Mia stood there for a moment, still processing the reality of the situation. She had to remind herself that Clint Eastwood was just another person, a man sitting down to have a meal. But even with that realization, she couldn't shake the feeling of being in the presence of someone extraordinary. Her hands shook slightly as she handed him the menu, trying not to let the awe show on her face. She had heard stories about celebrities visiting small diners before, but this was different. This was Clint Eastwood, a man whose face was etched into the history of cinema. He was a living legend, and here he was, casually sitting in front of her, just another customer in need of a cup of coffee. As Mia went about taking his order, she couldn't help but marvel at the simplicity of it all. There was no entourage, no flashy cameras or media, just Clint Eastwood, a man who had created some of the most iconic films in history, sitting in a small diner and ordering lunch. The conversation between them was brief, but it was enough to leave a lasting impression. Mia had expected Clint to be distant or aloof, a figure who might hold himself apart from the ordinary world. Instead, he was kind, polite, and engaging, showing a warmth that was both surprising and humbling. There was no sense of celebrity arrogance, just a genuine person, sitting down to enjoy a meal like anyone else. Mia was no stranger to hardship. As a 28-year-old single mother, she had learned to juggle work, parenthood, and the never-ending financial stress that came with both. But despite all the exhaustion, she had developed an unshakable resilience. Every tip, every paycheck she earned from the diner contributed to the well-being of her son, Jordan. She could only hope that she was providing him with a stable future. Mia had learned early in life that the world wasn't going to hand her anything. She didn't expect sympathy from anyone, least of all a Hollywood star. Yet, when Clint Eastwood walked into the diner, Mia had no idea that the universe was about to change in ways she couldn't predict. As she moved through the diner, serving customers, Mia's mind wandered back to her son. Jordan had been the light of her life since the day he was born, but her role as his mother had made everything more complicated. She had dreams too, but those dreams had to be set aside for now. There was no time for self-pity. There were bills to pay, a child to raise, and a future to secure. When Mia placed Clint's burger in front of him, she couldn't help but notice the way he seemed to savor the simple meal. It wasn't just the taste of the burger that seemed to bring him a quiet satisfaction. It was the entire experience. Sitting in a small, unassuming diner, surrounded by ordinary people, Clint Eastwood seemed oddly at peace, disconnected from the noise and glamour of Hollywood. It was in these moments of quiet reflection that Mia realized something. Clint was different. He wasn't the man she had seen in movies or the man whose face graced the covers of magazines. He wasn't interested in the attention or accolades. Instead, he was sitting there in a small diner, interacting with the people around him in a way that felt genuine. As she continued to serve Clint and the other customers that evening, Mia couldn't stop thinking about him. She knew he had lived a life far removed from hers. He had fame, fortune, and access to the finest things money could buy. So why was he here? Why was he sitting in a corner booth of a roadside diner when he could have been eating anywhere in the world? Mia couldn't help but wonder if there was a deeper meaning behind their encounter. Was Clint there just to eat a simple meal? Or was he somehow aware of the weight of her own life, the struggles she faced every day? She couldn't shake the feeling that their brief interaction was more than just a chance meeting. It felt as though he had noticed something in her that she herself hadn't fully recognized. Maybe, just maybe, there was a reason he was in that diner at that exact moment. As Mia went back and forth between tables, she found herself reflecting on her life and the choices she had made. She had worked tirelessly for years, but how often did she truly stop and appreciate the small victories? Clint had been kind to her, but Mia realized that, like him, she had spent much of her life focusing on the tasks at hand rather than allowing herself to enjoy the journey. When Clint finished his meal and left a tip, Mia was caught off guard by his gesture. It wasn't just the tip which was generous. It was the folded note he left behind. For a moment, she stood frozen at his booth, her mind racing with questions. What could Clint Eastwood possibly want with her? Why had he singled her out? Why had he left a note with such a large sum of money? But as the minutes passed and the diner's crowd began to thin, Mia finally found the time to unfold the note. Her heart raced as she read the words Clint had written. The check inside was for $10,000, but it wasn't the money that left her breathless. It was the kindness, the recognition. Clint had written about seeing strength in her, something Mia had long been trying to hide behind her exhaustion. Mia sat down in the back room, clutching the note in her trembling hands. She wasn't sure if she could process what had just happened. Clint Eastwood, a man whose legacy was built on strength and resilience, had seen something in her. But why? Why her? What had she done to deserve this? Her mind raced through 1,000 possibilities. This couldn't be real, could it? Was this some kind of mistake? Was Clint Eastwood just being kind? Or was there something more to this gesture? As Mia sat alone in the back room, her thoughts swirled in a whirlwind of emotions. She thought about the bills stacked on her kitchen counter, the overdue rent, and the never-ending list of things she had to do just to stay afloat. She thought about Jordan, her son, and the sacrifices she had made to ensure his future. And she thought about Clint's words, the way he had seen something in her, something that no one else had noticed. Mia knew this moment would change her life forever. It wasn't just about the money, though that was a godsend. It was about the recognition, the validation. Clint had seen her for who she was, not just as a waitress, but as a person who had fought tooth and nail to get where she was. And in that moment, she realized something important. It wasn't the struggle that defined her, but how she had persevered despite it. Her doubts lingered, of course. She couldn't help but wonder if she truly deserved this gift. She wasn't someone special. She was just a single mother, working in a small diner, doing her best to make ends meet. But as she reflected on Clint's note, she started to see herself differently. Maybe she had been stronger than she had given herself credit for. Mia couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted within her. She had spent her entire life giving everything to her son, her work, and the struggle to survive, never taking a moment for herself. Yet, this unexpected act of kindness from Clint Eastwood had broken through the walls she had carefully built around herself. For the first time in years, she found herself standing at a crossroads. As she stared at the check in her hands, her heart raced. The money was an undeniable relief. It would cover the rent, pay off some bills, and ease the pressure that had been mounting on her for months. But it wasn't just the financial relief that had her thinking. The note Clint had left behind made her question everything she had believed about herself. For so long, she had felt invisible, just another person working tirelessly to make ends meet. But Clint had seen something more in her. He had seen her strength, her resilience, her ability to keep going when life seemed determined to knock her down. Her mind raced, torn between gratitude and doubt. Did she deserve this? Could she ever repay such an act of kindness? And most importantly, what would it mean for her future? Mia didn't have the answers yet, but the more she thought about it, the more she realized something. This was her chance to finally change the narrative of her life. The next few days were a blur of activity as Mia tried to make sense of the note. She had always been cautious, pragmatic, focusing on the immediate needs of her family. But now there was something different. She couldn't stop thinking about the future. Clint had seen her potential, and it was clear that he believed she was capable of more than just getting by. Mia spent hours reflecting on her life, sitting at the small kitchen table, the check still resting on the countertop. She thought about her son, Jordan, and the life she wanted to build for him. She thought about her own dreams, the ones she had long abandoned in the name of survival. It was time to ask herself, what if she could finally start living those dreams? For the first time in years, Mia allowed herself to entertain the thought of something more. She had always been afraid of taking risks, of reaching for something beyond what she thought was possible. But now, she realized that she couldn't keep putting her own dreams on hold forever. This was her moment. Clint's kindness wasn't just about the money. It was about the opportunity to believe in herself, to take the leap and create a life she had only dreamed of. With newfound determination, Mia took her first steps toward a future that felt uncertain but full of possibility. She didn't have a concrete plan yet, but she knew she had to make a change. She couldn't keep living on autopilot, stuck in a cycle of work and survival. Mia began to explore the idea of going back to school. She had always dreamed of becoming a graphic designer, but life had always gotten in the way. Now, she realized that this could be her chance to make that dream a reality. She started researching online courses, looking into local design programs, and considering how she could balance her studies with her responsibilities as a mother. The thought of going back to school was daunting. What if she wasn't good enough? What if she failed? But then she remembered Clint's words. He had seen something in her that she had never truly seen in herself. Maybe she was stronger than she thought. Maybe she was more capable than she had given herself credit for. The next day, Mia took a deep breath and made a call. It was to an old friend from high school, Linda, who had gone on to become a successful marketing consultant. Linda had always been kind to Mia, and although they had lost touch over the years, Mia knew that Linda might be the person who could help her take the next step. Linda, Mia said, her voice shaky, I don't know if this is too much to ask, but I'm thinking about going back to school. Do you think it's possible to make a career change at my age? I've been thinking about graphic design, but I'm not sure where to start. Linda, to Mia's surprise, was immediately supportive. Of course it's possible. You're never too old to chase your dreams, Mia. You've got the strength to do it. I've always known that about you. And you know what? I can help. I can introduce you to some people in the industry, maybe even help you with some connections. You've got this. Mia couldn't believe what she was hearing. Linda's words felt like a lifeline. For the first time in a long time, Mia felt as though she wasn't alone in this journey. She had support, she had a direction, and most importantly, she had the belief that she could make this dream a reality. As the weeks passed, Mia's life began to shift in ways she hadn't expected. She enrolled in an online graphic design course, carving out time after work to study. It wasn't easy. Some days she felt overwhelmed, exhausted, and unsure if she was on the right path. But every time she wanted to quit, she thought back to Clint's note and the kindness he had shown her. That moment had sparked something inside her, a desire to be more than just a survivor. She wanted to thrive. One evening, after a long day of studying, Mia sat on her couch, looking at the small portfolio she had started to build. It wasn't much yet, but it was a start. She thought about the woman she had been before Clint's visit to the diner, the woman who had doubted herself, who had felt stuck in a never-ending loop of survival. And she thought about the woman she was becoming, a woman who was willing to take risks, to believe in herself, and to pursue her dreams no matter how hard the journey might be. As Mia's confidence grew, she began to share her story with others. She talked to other mothers at the diner, to friends, to strangers she met along the way. Her journey wasn't just about going back to school. It was about reclaiming her life, about stepping into her own power. And she realized that her story had the potential to inspire others to do the same. Mia wasn't just changing her own life. She was starting to change the lives of those around her. She was no longer just a waitress working to make ends meet. She was a woman on a mission, and she was going to keep going no matter what obstacles came her way. As Mia dove deeper into her graphic design course, she quickly realized just how much work it would take to transform her life. Between juggling her full-time job at the diner, studying late into the night, and still being a mother to Jordan, the pressure was intense. There were nights when she stayed up past midnight, hunched over her laptop, working on assignments and trying to perfect her designs. It felt like a never-ending cycle of exhaustion. But something had shifted inside her. For the first time in years, Mia wasn't just going through the motions. She had a purpose, something that made the struggle worth it. She was building a future, brick by brick, despite the weariness that crept in each morning. Jordan, who had noticed his mother's change, began to take on more responsibility at home. He understood that his mom was working hard to create a better life for both of them. "Mom, you're really good at this," he said one evening, looking at her work on the computer. "I can see it. You're going to make it." His words hit her harder than she expected. She had always believed that she was doing this for him. But in that moment, she realized it wasn't just for him. It was for herself. She had spent so many years putting everyone else first, but now, she was finally giving herself the chance to succeed. However, as Mia continued her studies, the old demons of self-doubt began to creep back into her mind. She wondered if she was really cut out for this career change. What if it was all too much? What if she failed? There were moments when Mia considered quitting. The long nights of studying, the constant juggling of responsibilities, and the nagging feeling that she was falling short in every area of her life left her feeling drained. She wasn't sure if she could keep up the pace. But then she thought about Clint Eastwood's note. "You've got what it takes." The words rang in her mind whenever she wanted to give up. She reminded herself that she wasn't alone in this. She had already come so far, and backing out now would mean letting go of everything she had worked for. Mia realized that fear was simply a part of the process. It was a part of growth. The more she confronted her doubts, the more she learned to push through them. She reminded herself that failure wasn't the end. It was a stepping stone. As Mia struggled with her studies, she reached out to Linda again. Linda had already helped her with some industry contacts, but Mia needed more guidance. She needed a mentor, someone who had been through the journey she was embarking on and could provide practical advice. "Linda, I feel like I'm losing steam," Mia confessed one afternoon over the phone. "I don't know if I can keep going. There are so many nights I just want to quit, but I know I can't. What should I do?" Linda, ever the supportive friend, listened attentively. "Mia, you're doing great, but I think it's time for you to get some hands-on experience. You need to start building your portfolio, even if it's just small projects at first. Trust me, once you start seeing your work out there, you'll gain the confidence you need to keep going. I'm also going to introduce you to a friend of mine. Her name is Sarah. She's been in the design business for over 15 years, and she loves helping up-and-coming designers." Mia felt a sense of relief after speaking to Linda. Sometimes all it took was a little bit of direction to get back on track. The next day, Linda introduced Mia to Sarah, who agreed to meet with her. Sarah was everything Mia had hoped for and more. She was confident, experienced, and generous with her advice. Over coffee, Sarah shared her own story of how she transitioned into graphic design later in life, and the challenges she faced. "It's not easy," Sarah said with a knowing smile. "There were days when I felt like I'd never make it. But if you keep working, keep pushing through, it'll happen. Just trust the process." Mia felt a sense of validation hearing Sarah's story. It was exactly what she needed to hear at that moment. For so long, she had felt like she was alone in her struggle. But now, talking to Sarah, she realized that this wasn't just her journey. Every designer, every successful person had gone through the same doubts, the same fears. What mattered was persistence. Sarah also gave Mia some practical advice on how to build her portfolio. Start by working on personal projects, Sarah said. Take on pro bono work if you need to. Don't wait for the perfect job to come along. The more you create, the more you'll learn. And the more you learn, the better your work will become. With Sarah's guidance, Mia began to take on small freelance projects, working with local businesses to design logos, websites, and promotional materials. It wasn't easy, but each project was a step closer to her goal. Her portfolio slowly started to take shape, and with it, her confidence grew. After months of hard work and countless revisions, Mia's efforts finally paid off. A local bakery, impressed by her portfolio, offered her a paid design project. It wasn't a big job, but it was a start, a tangible sign that her hard work was paying off. The moment she received that email from the bakery was one of the most triumphant moments of Mia's life. She couldn't believe it. She was officially a paid graphic designer. With the first check in her hand, Mia felt a sense of pride she hadn't experienced in years. She had done it. She had taken the leap, faced her fears, and proven to herself that she was capable of more than she had ever imagined. As Mia's freelance business began to take off, she found herself struggling to maintain a balance between her work, her studies, and her responsibilities as a mother. She couldn't do it all on her own, so she sought help from Jordan. "Mom, you've got to focus on this," Jordan said one night as Mia struggled to balance work and school. "I can handle dinner tonight. You keep working on your designs. I believe in you." Jordan's words meant the world to Mia. It was clear that he understood her sacrifice and the importance of her dreams. With his support, she found it a little easier to manage everything. Mia knew the road ahead was still long, but now, she felt more prepared to take on whatever came her way. She had faced the toughest parts of the journey, the self-doubt, the fear, the uncertainty, and come out stronger on the other side. Looking back on everything she had overcome, Mia realized that this was just the beginning. The road to success was far from easy, but she had already proven that she was capable of far more than she had ever imagined. Her journey wasn't just about becoming a graphic designer. It was about rediscovering her own worth. Mia had learned that it was never too late to chase your dreams, that even in the darkest moments, there was always a glimmer of hope. Mia knew that the future was uncertain, but for the first time in her life, she was no longer afraid. She had found her voice, and she was ready to let it be heard. Summary and lessons. Persistence pays off. Mia's story shows that success doesn't come overnight. It's about showing up every day, even when the road is difficult, and trusting that the hard work will eventually pay off. The power of mentorship, having someone who believes in you and offers guidance, can make all the difference. Mia's relationship with Sarah helped her gain confidence and direction. Balancing dreams and responsibilities. Pursuing your dreams while balancing family and work is never easy, but with support and determination, it's possible to achieve your goals. So that's the story for today, and I really hope it inspired you just as much as it inspired me. If you found this lesson helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and share this video with anyone you think might benefit from it. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure to click that subscribe button so you won't miss out on more inspiring and insightful videos like this one. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think about the story or what lessons you took away from it. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more videos coming your way. It's time to take action, because you truly deserve all the amazing things life has to offer.